Welcome to the They to We Leadership Podcast, where we unpack the hard truths about management. Many professionals excel at the work itself, but when they step into management, everything changes. Each episode, we explore why so many struggle with that shift and how reconnecting with your people, your purpose, and your identity as a manager can make all the difference. In a way, I feel somewhat unqualified to talk about the problem employee given the presence of Kevin Gilmartin's book, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement and Their Families. It is truly the state of the art book on how problem employees become formed, how we all in law enforcement tend to overinvest in the job and underinvest in other areas, and we become cynical and angry. And it is truly, I think, the best book written as far as dealing with a huge issue, especially now. It also deals with the wellness issue and that law enforcement is needing to address. But I wanted to talk about my own experience with the problem employees. And first off, let's talk about how prevalent are they. There is a chart that I use, the three types of employees: the very good, the very bad, which are 5 to 15%, and then the middle group, which is normal people that generally do their 70, 90%. And in that chart, it says that problem employees are about 5 to 15% of the general population of any organization. And it was interesting when I came into an agency as a captain and I was given training in internal affairs. I said, so what's the problem with internal affairs? They said, well, they have a lot of people that have an attitude and da 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 da. So I asked for a 3-year audit of complaints against employees of the organization. And the lieutenant came in, and I noticed she had a kind of puzzled look on her face. I said, hey, what did you find? She said, I'm surprised. She said, 8 employees, 8, single digit 8 employees out of 307 generated 65% of the complaints. So they're a small percentage of employees, but they generate a lot of problems. And I want to talk about them based on, again, some experience I've had with them as I tried to deal with them in the organization. And I think the underlying reason, and Gilmartin asked in his presentation, he said, how many of you have been to a swearing in ceremony? Look at their faces. They're encouraged. They are so excited about being a police officer or deputy or state trooper or whatever. And then he said, pass one of them in the hallway 5 years later and go, how you doing, Ralph? And they go, whatever. And you can tell they're angry and frustrated. And he asked this question: what do we do to good people? We try to hire good people, and we do. We hire good people, but a lot of them kind of change for the worse. And so let's talk about the problem employee. I think as I've talked with them, and I think the law enforcement career is an awesome mission. It has an incredible mission. It has family. It is the front line responding to serious problems in this country. People, when they're in law enforcement and you ask them what they do, they don't say, I work for this agency. They say, I am a cop. They have a very strong identity. But we're going to see that as we train people to become cops, they go from me, but as individuals, to we. They become part of this family. They become part of the mission, not just with the agency, but nationally, and if not internationally. Their identity is in that. And as they go through their careers, they have their low points, but overall, they still believe in what they do. And they're we people. They've gone from self-focus to focus on the mission and their brothers and sisters and the mission, et cetera. What I think happens with some problem employees, not all of them, but most of them, they lose their we and go back to me. They lose their focus on the mission, the family. Now, they'll still run to the sound of the gun. They still respond to danger and other things. But as I sat and talked with them, it's interesting that they always define their job now and their view of the job by a individual experience where they can't get over it. They got transferred out of narcotics. They didn't make sergeant. That you see that now it's all focused not on what they're doing, but how they, quote, got screwed over 12 years ago, 5 years ago. I ask in all my classes, I say, how many of you work with a person that can't get over what happened 12 years ago? They all start laughing. And I also ask them, I said, and how many of you, when things are boring, you always say to that person, didn't they screw you over? And watch them go ballistic. They like turn into the Incredible Hulk because it is always there underneath the surface. That basically they're no longer cops, they're victims. Bitter, angry people over a administrative governmental decision that didn't go the way they wanted. And I want to ask you to consider this. And again, we go back to Gilmartin. He said, you will be screwed over in your career. This is a normal thing in life where we work for bureaucracies, we work for some bad managers sometime. And he said, you have a choice when you get screwed over. You can become a victim or a survivor. And it's interesting what he said. He said, choose survivor. Don't choose victim. Just get over it. What happened? And what I saw with the problem employees I dealt with, they have not gotten over it. They are bitter. And it's interesting. I heard a quote one time in a conflict resolution course I went through. It said, bitterness is the poison we drink in the hopes of killing another person. Think about that. It's a poison of attitude that they're mad at everybody, but the person most impacted by it is themselves. And if you know who I'm talking about when I talk about this, it is clear by their nonverbals and their verbals that they are have been poisoned. The well is poisoned. The well is our attitude inside, and everybody sees it but us. And why this is important in the concept of leadership is this impacts other people. And even though they may only be 8 employees out of 307, they impact and they infect. And COVID taught us about infections. They infect other people around us. Why? Because misery loves company. I've never met a problem employee who says, this agency sucks, but it's not my job to tell people about it. No, they talk all the time about it. And everybody's busy and has a bunch to do, but it always seems like the problem employee has plenty of time to rant and rave about the agency and how it sucks and how the bosses suck and everything else. And it's in a way emotional contamination. And I've seen where problem employees come in and start their pitchforks and torches moment. And by the time they leave, everybody's angry. And we have to see that this is critical for a leader to address this. And part of the problem is their peers don't address this. Their peers don't shut them down and say, why don't you just shut up? We don't want to hear this again. So, because of that lack of accountability, they continue to go on. In fact, I'll be honest with you, I think police officers encourage it a little bit. They love watching them rant and rave, and they'll kind of edge them on, and they'll think it's funny. And if you watch the non-problem employee, they're usually just laughing and in a way taunting the man or woman to keep going, and they enjoy stirring them up. The other reason that they impact people is because we don't address the problem employee, and everybody knows who the problem employee is, but no one holds them accountable. And one of the key things we're going to discuss in the next section is what do we do about this person or persons? Because we have to deal with it because it impacts the organizational health. An organization has a health just like a person. And if you don't deal with the problem, the sickness, the toxic nature of this, it will impact the entire agency. We have to deal, we were tasked on the street with dealing with toxic people. That guy berating people in the community and causing trouble and drunk and disorderly. We address them, but we don't address people inside an organization. We're not helping them, the problem employee, and we're not helping the employees that are impacted by this if we don't, as leaders, deal with it. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Thanks for joining us on the They to We Leadership podcast. If today's episode helped you think differently about management, take a moment to reflect and then apply it. Because real leadership isn't what you say, it's what you do next. And the real enemy is our pride and blindness on how we are really doing. Only with the help of others can we truly make an impact on those around us.